Well, so I just lost quite a bit of recording. Could go back and figure it out, just how much time I wasn't recording, because when I hit the stop, it never finished closing, and I kind of blanked out. It was a mistake on my part, because part of the routine is to wait until after I have done a start to do what I call the bottom line. It's just a straight line across the page on my notebook that says that, well, there are two things that it does. One is it tells me that anything written above that line was written about the recording that has already been finished. That was finished before I put that line down, immediately before I put that line down, basically. What we do in parroting is every once in a while we feel it's important to do a stop. Stop the current recording, end it, so it's finished, it's there, and then start a new one. And at that moment is a very good time to, actually right before it, is a good time to capture something. I used to call it label it, but I like to now use a little more poetic term. I mean, not that the word window is set, well, I guess it's poetic. A window into the whatever I was talking about. And it's not it doesn't show the whole room that's inside, or that I might have talked about, if we're going to take the house analogy, that each recording is a little house. It might be just a tiny hut, or it might be a house with many rooms. Because during a recording or a parroting, and when we do this, we might touch on one subject, or we might touch on a bunch of subjects. And frequently, we don't write down something for each subject. So, though sometimes we do in our notebook. It all depends. If we're sitting someplace, say we're sitting by the dock of the bay, wasting time. After we left our home in Georgia, heading for Frisco Bay, had nothing to live for, seemed like nothing ever came my way. Well, if we're sitting by the dock of the bay wasting time, we take our notebook and we've got it right in front of us while we're doing our parroting, and every time we have a thought that we think we'd like to write down, we write it down. So maybe during a recording that might be 10 minutes long, we might have written down 5, 6 phrases or sentences. We might have actually gotten into a very prosy mode, just really writing, just straight out. Usually I don't. I'm not a prosy type. I'm a phrasey person. I put phrases down. And if I'm doing nothing but sitting with my notebook, I might put a lot of phrases. If I'm driving, I don't. In fact, I don't really want to do any more than an absolute minimum. And so I might decide I'm going to stop recording after writing just a slight bit down. Maybe I'm on a stretch of highway that's nice and straight, and there's very few cars around me, and I can put the notebook on my steering wheel, and with my other hand I could write a word without even looking at what I'm writing, and then just take a quick look to say, okay, it's in the right place, and then take another quick glance and make sure my pen is, say, to the right of that word. So, because I want to write one more word, I'm going to minimize, because I'm driving. I don't want to get killed, but I do want to capture something. So I'm going to write 2 words, 3 words at my lead, with safety always being a priority in my mind. I'm not going to worry about getting the word down neatly or whatever. If it's a big mess and it's unreadable, I'd much rather do that than take a chance, have my eyes off the road any longer than I need to. So, depending on what you're doing, so you want to come up with a window into the recording. It's some little, idea. You're looking in and you're seeing something about what that recording is. And actually, very frequently, it's just the very last few words that you say when you say, that's something I think is worthy of writing down. And you say, I'm going to write this down, and then I'm going to do the standard 3-step process. Actually, it's a little more than three, but the important part of the three-step process is, one, you need to check the time that's on the recorder, because that's how you're going to synchronize your notes from the windows. You're going to be able to say, this window refers to that recording. So by having the time, that's your way to do it. There could be other ways, but sort of I'm talking about sort of the vanilla way. You know, everybody tries different things, and this is the way I found works the best for me. So it's very frequently just the last few words, whatever they were, like the ostrich approach just doesn't work. I could tell you now. I could tell you what I was talking about just based on that, because it led up to that. And it was, you know, generically, I could just say, I was talking about people who think that the right way to deal with danger is to stick their head in the sand. It doesn't work. And I can, you know what, I think I could probably recreate almost everything I said in that based on that one thing, just because I've already been through it, and it's in my head somewhere. It's actual chemical traces, neurochemical traces, and possibly even slight changes neuroanatomically. You know, the branches of my neurons are slightly different because I thought that. I think neuroscientists don't really understand exactly, you know, what's going on there, but it's very clear that when a memory, when we have an experience, it causes certain neuronal pathways to be used, and just their use leaves traces of some sort that make those pathways more likely to be followed than if the experience hadn't happened before. Doesn't guarantee it, because we're continually learning new things. We're doing new things. We're continually, our brains are changing all the time. And so it's where our brains change in perhaps a way that's repeating in certain things. Those are the ways we're going to most likely respond, especially when we don't have time to think about it, when we just respond. The more we've done a certain thing in response to a certain stimulus, the more likely we are to respond the way we've responded before. We have a word for that. It's a very important word in our lives. We tend to use it in terms of good and bad, and things like using dangerous drugs, or working too hard, or always falling in love with the wrong kind of person, or always saying yes when we really should say no, or always picking our nose when nobody's looking because we don't want to pick our nose when people are looking. Whatever it is. It's habit. Habits are significant factors in our lives.